Hey guys, so this week we're discussing identifying key problems or challenges. I just want to let you know ahead of time that this is a super large chapter, so I just want to let you know that there's a lot to cover during this. So, before we can help a client, we must find and understand the client's problems. Some clients come in with a clear idea of what their problems are. So, like, say you're a counselor and a student comes to you saying that he's struggling in math class. It might seem obvious to fix the problem, like, oh, he needs to get a tutor or something, but actually, like using the skills that we've learned after talking to the student, like we find out that he used to learn math with his father, and now his father's no longer in the picture and lives not at home anymore, and all that stuff. So that's why the kid is struggling in math now, because he's something at home has changed. Finding out this information can make it easier for the counselor to find a appropriate tutor for the child. When focusing on understanding problems, it's important for us to notice if our clients are taking steps to solve the problems, because if they aren't focusing on these issues that we think are important, then maybe it's not an important issue to them at the time, or maybe they just aren't ready to address it. So, like going back to our example, maybe the student is struggling in class because maybe he's actually struggling because the material is actually really hard for him to understand. Or he just maybe isn't ready to talk about his father not being at home anymore. But we just have to remember that not every issue has an underlying cause. Um, in a more serious side to finding problems, if we're in a crisis situation, we need to quickly take action, and we may not have time to fully explore all the problems. So, for clarification, a crisis situation can include interpersonal violence, such as a murder or something like that, a major natural disaster like a flood, tornado, or fire, or a personal loss, such as an unexpected death or a sudden abandonment. During these times of crisis, we need to focus on the immediate needs of those who are involved. So, after we quickly assess what's going on, we have to determine the most effective way to respond. So, if a client's in shock or something, you need to be more direct with them than you normally would, because they're in shock, so they aren't going to be thinking clearly. Um, and then, if depending on what field you go into, you may not have crisis training. So then you can refer your client to someone who does have the proper training, whether it be a clergy or a police officer or a physician, depending on what the situation is. Once the crisis has been diffused, then we can focus on the client's challenges. Um, the book gave a few guidelines that are important to remember during the crisis situations. Is number one, obviously, is that safety of everybody involved is most important. Um, and then you have to remember to listen carefully, ask clarifying questions, and to remain empathetic and warm. Um, it's difficult to know exactly what to do during a crisis situation, because we know that we don't know how they'll escalate or how things will play out. So we have to rely on what we've been trained to do. Next, we talk about working with clients in the pre-contemplative stage. These clients are the ones who don't see that they need to change, or they don't think that their behaviors are a problem. We work with them to reach the next stage by thinking that a change can improve their lives. So, as we know, these clients on the stage blame other people for their problems. Um, and the challenge for us, the practitioners, with the clients on the stage is we need to listen more empathetically to to them, and then to eventually get the clients to realize that they can only control themselves and they cannot change other people's behavior. Um, Moving the focus from something that a client cannot change to something that they um, can change the way that they think. And it gives the opportunity for the client to make a change. We know that the clients are more resistant and aren't ready to deal with their problems. So one of the key things is rolling with resistance. It's a motivational interviewing strategy, assuming that the clients have valid insights and ideas about their situation. So in other words, arguments for change are avoided, and instead we can express understanding of the client's viewpoint and ask the client what changes they'd like to make, if there's any. After we accept the client's point of view and indicate their willingness to work on problems, and then motivational interviewing, like I said earlier, it's just a client-centered counseling that helps the clients increase their motivation. There's 4 skills in it, which is the first one's rolling with resistance. Then there's identifying discrepancies, expressing empathy, and supporting self-efficacy. Identifying discrepancies points out the clashing between the client's behavior versus what they view or what they value and want. We can ask clients to see the discrepancy between the two. So, like, say there's a girl who fights a lot in school, but she hates going to see you as her counselor. You can tell her that if she doesn't want to be here, she should stop fighting. And that's basically how you can help her work towards not fighting so that she doesn't have to go and see the counselor that she thinks is a waste of time. And then this just helps the client think about what changes they need to do to achieve their goal. Expressing empathy provides acceptance that facilitates change and is one of the skills of motivational interviewing. It's important to remember that we do not need to have the same values or even agree with the client to express empathy. But it's important to show during the contemplation stage with our clients so we can push them on to the next stage and so that they're ready to believe that they have a problem. Advanced reflecting is a way to express empathetic understanding by identifying the values, feelings, and expectations behind a message. So we often share why we sense what's going on, or we often share what we sense is going on than what we know is going on. So we usually say it seems like, it feels like, that type of stuff. It's to clarify the emotions that are hinted but aren't directly expressed, so like through the nonverbal things. So it says, in like an example is, I hear that you're frustrated and you think this group isn't listening enough. It seems like you really want this task group to do well. And it moves the focus on what the client is frustrated about to what the client wants to do. Part of our role is to help the client see patterns or themes related to their problems so they can move closer to the preparation stage. The difference between themes and patterns are themes refer to an idea shared by several people, and these are more important for like families and groups. And you express shared feelings and thoughts throughout groups, and it gets them ready for the preparation stage. Patterns refer to a consistent way of thinking, feeling, or behaving. And then we usually comment on similarities between the client's words and the nonverbal communication. You can notice like someone's like eyes are tearing up whenever they're talking about a friend who moved away or something like that. And even though they don't directly say that they're upset, you can clearly tell that they are. A client in the preparation stage is ready to identify their role in problems and setting goals. They're ready to identify their role in problems and begin setting their goals. This involves partializing or breaking a complex problem into manageable goals. Some problems can be overwhelming, and dividing them into smaller groups makes it more manageable. So putting all those things together, all these skills are helpful for identifying problems, and it can be simply as asking what members of a group want to be changed and help identify the problems within themselves. Even though the problem may be clear to us as the practitioners, it's important to stay understanding to ensure that that we and the clients are in an agreement of what's going on, so that there's no misunderstanding. Apparently, in the book, it says that this is a difficult and awkward task for us to bring up the problems. A way to move from reflecting feelings to identifying the problem, you could say, you feel unhappy because your family doesn't listen to you, and that reflects the feeling and content. And then having your family listen to you is very important to you, which is advanced reflecting. And then it seems like you haven't found a way to tell those in your family how important it is that they listen to you, and that's identifying the problem. So it's important to give clients all parts of those so they can identify their own problem. And then just to remember to give your clients time to think and pause so that they can self-reflect to figure out the problems on their own. Alright, so that was a lot to cover, but I hope I got everything. Alright, thanks guys.